Hi, everyone. It's Pat Flannery, your intrepid editor of Glass Canada magazine, recording Glass News now for you from the coronavirus bunker in London, Ontario. I hope everyone is staying safe and staying clean. Difficult times, weird times for sure. Normally, it's difficult to fill a couple of weeks of news in this industry. Things don't move that quickly. But of course, lately, it's been 3 weeks since we've done this, and it feels like the world has entirely changed. Obviously, everything is very different, and there's really too much to talk about, even in one broadcast. So I do encourage everybody to tune in to the coronavirus roundup on glasscanadamag.com. That is where I am posting stories daily from across the country relevant to the commercial glazing and glass fabrication industries. Try to keep it narrowly. Obviously, there's a lot of information about the pandemic everywhere, but I try to pick out the industry-specific stuff that's of interest to your businesses and get it there. So for this week's news, obviously the big news is most of us are not working or are working at a reduced level. Construction sites for commercial and industrial, non-essential, which is basically not working on transportation infrastructure or energy or mining or petrochemicals or something like that, where it would be dangerous to not do the work. Anything not doing that sort of work has been shut down in most of the country. In places where quote unquote non-essential construction is allowed to go forward, obviously everyone has had to apply social distancing measures, be very careful about wiping down equipment, washing hands, that sort of thing, which obviously slows everything down and reduces the number of people usually you can have on the job site. Quebec has shut down things probably most restrictively. Ontario is close behind that. For residential construction such as condos, the rule in Ontario that was applied at the end of last week is that if the footings permit is in place, the project is allowed to go ahead, but nothing new is allowed to be started. So that's going to possibly delay the start of some things depending on what the timing was. We probably haven't seen too much impact just yet, but it's certainly coming if this goes on for any extended period of time. Although the numbers have been flattening, and we can hope that that the end is at least in sight somewhere in the not too distant future. You need to have hot and cold running water on the job site. That's got to be a challenge in some places. And I believe there have been some fines and some charges leveled against job sites that are not complying. So please, again, check your provincial resources. There's a list of them on the coronavirus roundup, glasscanadamag.com. Check your provincial regulations and make sure that your workers are complying when they're out there on the site. Manufacturing, it has been deemed an essential service in Ontario, and I believe through most of the rest of the country, except Quebec, I believe, has shut it down for everything. But again, those critical industries that are servicing hospitals, if you're in the supply chain for a hospital, if you're in the supply chain for a transportation maintenance, that kind of thing, then you're allowed to keep operating. But in most of the rest of the country, if you're manufacturing basically anything, you're allowed to keep going. And glass fabrication has fallen into that category. So has any sort of building facade products. You're able to keep going, although obviously things are slow, things are uncertain, and supply chains can be disrupted. We have reports of difficulty getting glass out of Pennsylvania and some other areas of the United States where those manufacturing activities have been deemed non-essential and shut down. But then there's other parts of the U.S., Oregon specifically, where that is allowed. Raw glass is still coming out. I'm speaking now mostly about insulating glass units. So apparently fabricators tend to be working on skeleton staffs or just smaller groups to keep everybody spaced out. And of course, office staff and managers are often working from home to the extent possible. Hopefully the supply chains and the ability to ship glass around the country and across borders will able to go forward at least to some extent, although I don't think there's much doubt that things are going to be slow. And then, of course, we all have to keep an eye on the general economic conditions. Most companies had quite a few orders on the border, on the books, and a pretty good backlog. So, again, hopefully when restrictions ease, we'll be able to see things come roaring back in a good way. One effect, obviously, of all of this has been the postponement of Top Glass, which, of course, for us personally here at Glass Canada, was a difficult decision and a sad one. We had a great lineup ready to go for April 22nd. The good news is that lineup has all reconfirmed for our new date of September 29th this year. We're hoping that by then everything will be back to normal and everyone's going to be ready to get together and celebrate being able to gather in the same place again. We hope it's going to be a big celebrate the Canadian glass industry party. And that's on September 29th. And we've had to shift venues because you know how the bookings work. It is now at Paramount Event Space in Woodbridge, Ontario, which is very close to the International Center. It's not far away at all. Still quite convenient, lovely looking space. Please go to topglasscanada.com and you'll find all the details there. And we'll have more information rolling out as the date gets closer. The other thing we're conscious of course, is that architects credits, Ontario OAA architects credits are due in June. Lots of our friends in the architectural and design community do rely on Top Glass to pick up some credits. And we're looking at trying to do something digital, something online that enables you to snag some of those credits and get some great information about the building facade industry at the same time. So stay tuned for details of that. Watch the channels. We'll be communicating with that initiative when and if we get it off the ground. Of course, it's always challenging right now finding people who are at work and available. But then some people can come to us just from their home, like I am right now, and it seems to work out okay. Finally, we know it's a difficult time, and a lot of you are going to be needing help in your finances, help in your business. How do you bridge your expenses over this period of time? What kind of relief can you get from the government? What kind of relief can your employees get? What kind of options do you have for keeping them on staff or enabling them to get the assistance that they need when they're laid off? There's too much to go into right here. There are a number of government programs that have been announced. Obviously, it's just been a wild ride of information and new things coming to try to support everybody. To try to keep you informed of that, first of all, again, coronavirus roundup on glasscanadamag.com. I have links to all the major programs and websites there where you can find the information that you need. The other thing that I've done is I've recorded now 3, and there'll probably be more podcasts with Bonnie Cable of AKR Consulting. She is an expert in getting government funding for small businesses. She's familiar to many of us in the glass industry. She's had a lot of exposure to our sector. And Bonnie and I have had a series of very good conversations about the specific coronavirus efforts by the governments, the Ontario government provincially, and certainly the federal government stuff, and a look at some of the other things around the country. And Bonnie has some great information for you there. She can be very detailed about it. You can find my conversations with Bonnie on the Glass Talk podcast. And if you haven't already subscribed to it, you can find links to the podcast, again, online at glasscanadamag.com. They're right there on the homepage. Also, search in your favorite podcaster, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. I believe they're posted on all the major podcasting services. And if you just search for Glass Talk, you will find those podcasts listed in your feed, and you can have a listen and get all the great data from Bonnie. So that's all for now. This has been long, but there's lots to talk about, and will be more coming forward. Everybody, please take care of yourselves, take care of your businesses, take care of your workers. Stay safe, and as I said, the numbers seem to be going in the right direction, so hopefully we'll have everything back to normal soon. Thanks again from Glass News Now. I'm Pat Flannery, and we'll see you next time.